Hello and welcome to Finding Your North Star, the HGKC podcast series where we talk to prominent business people about their experiences and challenges of innovation. In this, our Somerset Stories series of podcasts, we're inviting our guests to share both their personal experience and a strategic perspective of a county that presents a unique combination of challenges and opportunities. Hinkley Point C and Agratas have turned Bridgewater into a boomtown. Yeovil is one of the biggest concentrations of precision engineering in Europe, and a college that is offering apprenticeships at every level to record numbers of students. But Somerset is a county with a declining birth rate that many people retire to or just drive past down the M5 on their way to holidays in Devon and Cornwall. It's an area of outstanding natural beauty. The Mendip, Blackdown and Quantock Hills, Exmoor National Park, the Somerset Levels and Moors, but with poor local transport links and a shortage of affordable housing and low social mobility. I'm Peter Quintana, and I'm delighted to be joined in this episode by Jade Farthing, Managing Director of Haskins Furniture. Welcome, Jade, and welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
I wanted to start by congratulating you on your recent Somerset Business Award. You must be very proud of that.
Oh, very proud. It means a lot, not just to me, but the whole team who have worked incredibly hard, not just for the awards, but day in, day out. They work really hard.
As a high street retailer, I think it must be particularly satisfying to win an award for growth and resilience, especially in these difficult times. You're a fourth generation family business now, aren't you? Do you think that being fourth generation family, having that responsibility for leaving the business in a better place for the next generation is part of the reason for that success?
I think being fourth generation family business definitely plays a part. There's an incredible history that I feel very privileged to be able to be a part of. But at the same time, I'm very aware that I'm shaping the future and that everything I do has an impact on what that future looks like. So it's a big responsibility for me, as well as being incredibly exciting to be able to make those changes and look to the future for us.
I think it's one of those things with family businesses, isn't it? When you take over the reins, the history is really important, but it's actually about the next generation who's going to be prolonging the legacy of the family business. Why family businesses are so long-lived.
Yeah, exactly. Our heritage plays a massive part for us because we've got such a wonderful story to tell. The fourth generation is something to be really proud of, but certainly it is all about how we move on to that fifth generation or hopefully that sixth generation and making it sustainable for the future. Whether it's a family business or not, times are particularly challenging. And I suppose I am just a caregiver, really. I've got to find a way to make sure that it does progress on to the next generation. And you can't do that just by sitting on your laurels or using your history. As lovely as that is, and we like to shout about it, we've got to be thinking about the next steps and how we become more efficient, whether that's we were very paper-based before COVID, and that was purely down to the generations in the family business. It was always our plan to move to more, whether it was Teams or using more software. COVID sped that up, but we've got to keep moving with the times and we've got to look forward, whether that's AI or marketing or how we position ourselves in the market, because the past is great, but the future is the important part now.
Yes, because as you were saying, if you're going to go to fifth, sixth, seventh generation, then there's still got to be something there that is worth picking up and taking forward, isn't it?
Yeah, and times are changing. That's the key. We've got to keep changing with them.
Yeah, we've talked about it a little bit, but succession planning is always difficult in business, but it comes with a whole different set of challenges in family businesses, doesn't it? What's been your experience for you personally succeeding to the managing director role, and do you have plans in place for bringing in the next generation?
I think succession is different in family businesses because we're not looking at CVs or a big pool of people that can come in to be directors or managers. The people we're surrounded with are the people, and that's ultimately the family. And the family don't always necessarily have the skills that are needed, which is a challenge, and we have to work around that. I'm incredibly lucky with the team I've surrounded myself with that aren't family members, and I try and treat them with the care and respect that they deserve, almost if they were family, and that's really important to me as a person and the family. Succession, I have a daughter, she's 9 at the moment, and I would love to think that she will come into the business, but I don't want there to be any pressure on that. My cousin works in the business, and he's got 2 little ones. I think they're 2 and 4. So we've still got a lot of time to think about succession. Hopefully I've got, I don't know, another 30 years maybe in the business.
Yeah.
I was really fortunate that I took a step away from the family business and I went off to Sheffield and Birmingham, and I did some other things and got my degree. And that was vital to me as a person, and I think to the business, bringing that experience back and having other experience in different sectors does, on a day-to-day basis, help me. And I would like to think that my daughter would do the same, go and travel or experience the world, do something really obscure for a few years, and then hopefully when she's ready, come back and take the reins a little bit.
And bring a new perspective. I think that's the real value of what you were just describing, is you get a different perspective by being somewhere else, not in the family business, from the day you can walk.
And the people I met, I can pick up the phone any day of the week and phone someone I used to work with in Sheffield and say, do you know what, I'm not sure about this. Have you got any advice? And that is valuable to me. And it's actually something the generation before me didn't really have. They started in the business after school, or even through school, skipping school to work in the business. And although that was incredible for them, for me, having a little bit of outside experience and a pool of people that I can call on has been really beneficial for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you say that, reaching out to people outside, but you have older generations of your family still in the business. I think your nan is still around, is that? Yeah.
Nan is 90.
Yeah.
And she's an incredible woman. She does know the business, and she's, oh God, she supplies me with coffee and I chew her ear off a couple of times a week about various business dilemmas. But she is 90. So there's that generational, it's not an issue, but her way of thinking and the way she sees the world is very different to how I see the world.
Yeah.
There's so many administration tasks I have to do that she just doesn't understand. She didn't have that in her day. Company's House and HMRC and VAT, that's a complete minefield to her. But it is great that I can pop in for a cup of coffee and say, Nan, help.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's vital, that link to kind of anchors you in where the business has come from, isn't it?
Yeah. Other family businesses, you do not know what's around the corner. My dad was managing director for a long time. Unfortunately, he has been diagnosed with dementia.
Right.
So where I thought I would have my dad to turn to or work alongside for a long time, like he did with his dad, I actually don't have that. So that's a real challenge of a family business. You assume the family's always going to be there, but you don't know what's going to happen.
No. I want to ask you about, we are living through some quite difficult times, aren't we? Pressure from our government in terms of the way they're regulating for businesses, pressure outside the UK with what's going on internationally, affecting logistics and supply lines and all sorts of things. But one of the most pressing challenges that your organisation faces, is that skills or recruitment or infrastructure, or what else? Or all of the above?
All of the above.
Yeah.
At the moment, the big one has got to be the rising costs, and it's everywhere, from national insurance, business rates, heating and lighting. Even at the moment, we've got surcharges coming through from all our suppliers because of the cost of fuel, or there's the cost of fibre has massively gone up just in the last few weeks. And so that puts us in a tricky position of, do we pass that cost on to the customer, which we do not want to do, or do we try and take a hit, which ultimately affects our bottom line? Everywhere at the moment, we are battling with rising costs and trying to find ways around it, or tightening up and being more efficient. But that we've been doing that almost since COVID. And at some point is, come on, give us a break, please. But I think going back to the awards, I think that's where our resilience comes in, is because we don't just accept these challenges, we're always looking for a way around them. And that mindset for us is really key, is how do we tackle it and not just bury our head.
Yeah, I think that's what resilience is all about, isn't it? It's not stubbornly sticking your ground, it's looking for innovative ways or new ways of getting around the various challenges that you're being presented with. And it's interesting you refer back to COVID, but I think it goes back beyond then. I think right from the referendum in 2015, 2016, it's been a rocky road that UK businesses have had to travel, I think, since then.
Definitely, even leaving the EU had massive consequences for us, and it had a knock-on effect with the supply chain, and ultimately costs went up. So yeah, you're right, it wasn't just COVID, it started before then.
Yeah, I think so. I hear that from lots of businesses that I talk to. Just talking about something perhaps a little bit more local, how has Somerset's availability or shortage of housing impacted your ability to attract and retain staff? Is there much building going on around Shepton Mallet?
Actually, in Shepton, no, which is a real shame because there's been plans for a couple of hundred houses for a long time now, years, and it's been held up for whatever reason. In Somerset, we've got the issue of the phosphates. I think there's a lot of pushback because the doctors couldn't cope or the schools can't cope. But the reality is we need more housing, and housing helps us because we furnish houses.
Yes,
So
that is the other side of new build, isn't it, for you?
yeah, we need more affordable housing. Shepton Mallet is a strange place in a sense because Somerset covers Bath and Bristol, but they are big cities. Whereas Shepton, they're still quite far from those cities and it is relatively rural. Our roads are not great. People don't tend to stay around. It is the older ones coming back to retire. But we need those younger ones. We need affordable houses to attract those younger ones. You can't rent anywhere in Shepton at the moment. There isn't places to rent. How are we expecting the next generation to stick around? But all businesses in Somerset need that new generation to come through. I've got a bit of a bugbear with we are trying to build lots of houses, but should we be looking at older premises that should be converted into houses?
Yeah.
But that's a whole different story. But certainly we need more houses. They should be getting on with them. But I think there's a lot of red tape that I certainly don't understand why they're being held up.
There is a lot of building going on around Frome. It's interesting that there's so little going on around Shepton right now. Do you think that's because the council was based in Shepton? It's that way maybe they were perhaps a bit more strong in turning down those applications?
I don't know. There's a huge amount of politics behind it that, again, I don't understand and I don't want to be involved in. That being said, I have actually just joined the town board of Shepton along with a few other business locals because there needs to be some joined up thinking. I don't just want to think about Haskins, and the other businesses don't just want to think about themselves. We need to think about the town as a whole and how we can help each other. Because we need footfall, we need people to come into the town. We want Shepton to become a destination for shoppers or people mooching around and having a coffee, because that helps all our businesses. But there, as of yet, hasn't been quite that, like I said, joined up approach because there is government funding. The government is trying to a certain degree, and other towns have done it. You mentioned Frome, and actually they've got a really thriving high street and lots of bustling shops, and we want that for Shepton, and it's coming. It just needs proper thought, and it's not quick fixes, although that's probably wrong. There are a couple of quick fixes, but it needs to be a long-term solution, not just.
Do you have an active chambers in Shepton?
Yes, although I believe, and I haven't been that involved, although I'm hoping that's going to change soon. I just think it's been a little bit disjointed, but the intent is there and the ambition is there. So it's just getting on and trying to do something. But everyone is stretched for time, everyone's stretched for budget. The government are passing more costs onto the local councils. So the money they did have is now having to be spent on things that they never used to have to spend it on. So it's just hard, but there's always light at the end of the tunnel. I don't think we can ever give up. We've just got to look for the next opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Somerset has a massive social mobility problem. I was down in the western side of the county a couple of weeks ago at a Somerset Chambers event in Minehead, and they're talking there about problems with transport connectivity, and social mobility does look different in rural counties than in cities. How do you think we can better support young people to develop skills and build careers locally and help to address issues such as youth retention? Because at the moment it's a net migration out of the county for young people.
Yeah, and we experienced that. We just lost a really bright young lady, and she's moved up to Manchester,
Right.
and she's a massive loss for us, although I completely understand why she's made the move. Like I mentioned, I did it. I went to Sheffield and I went to Birmingham. And then coming back to Somerset or Shepton Mallet, it's so different. You don't have the buses, you don't have the transport links to get places just at the drop of a hat. Everything's got to be planned. So people aren't moving around like they do in the cities. And I think it links back into what we were just talking about houses. If people could actually move into the areas with affordable housing, then that's the first battle. But then they do need the link to other towns. The times where we just stay in one town are gone. We all want to be going to Street or going to Wales or travelling up to Bristol or Bath, or it's incredibly hard from Shepton, to be fair. The buses are not great. We've got the train station in Castle Carey, but how do you get to Castle Carey if you don't drive?
Drive, yes, yeah.
So it's quite backwards. But then I suppose, is that a reason why we're attracting the older retired sort of generation? Because it is quiet, it is sleepy, it's not the city. I don't know, it's an ongoing problem, I think, because we need to be retaining the younger generations.
It's a bit of a catch-22. I think we want to attract people into the county, and older people will bring money, usually if they're settling here. So they bring wealth into places like Shepton because they'll be shopping in places like Haskins and elsewhere. But equally, I think it's a big risk that we're not keeping as many young people as we have. Otherwise, who's going to take the jobs? Who's going to replace the person that you've just lost up to Manchester if there are no young people coming into the place with the kind of skills that you want? So it's a real challenge. It's a real catch-22, isn't it?
I think the biggest thing is probably awareness, and that we need to show young people that opportunities do exist locally. I think sometimes retail is a little bit overlooked, but there are careers in this sector, whether it's sales, design, logistics, marketing, management, and we shouldn't be overlooked. We should be showing these young people that there are careers on their doorstep. They don't need to be running off to the big cities to get that career progression. And we need to shout about it more, I think.
Do you get the opportunity in Shepton to invite young people into Haskins from local schools, or to go into career days at schools locally?
A little bit. We've had quite a few employees that have done further education or just wanted to do various courses, either through Yeovil College or Strode College.
Yeah.
And that's opened a few doors to us. As an employer, we desperately want to encourage the younger generation, support them, offer apprentices, etc. We've been stung a few times with younger people coming into the business. So it is that balance. But yeah, it's something I need to do more of, actually, is to work with places like Strode and Yeovil College, because they are very good at trying to do the career days and getting apprentices out there. So it's something I should and will be doing more of.
What about secondary schools? What secondary schools do you have in Shepton?
We have Whitstone.
Right.
We used to have quite a good relationship with them, and then their head changed. But I believe their head has just changed again. So that definitely there would be some opportunity there. I think the biggest challenge is everyone's busy.
Yeah.
And I've got so many ideas of what I want to do and people to reach out to. And the months tick past and I think, oh, I haven't done that yet. But I do need to make some time to actually, like you said, the secondary schools or the colleges, because it is important.
Yeah, but it is, as I say, it's about making the time to do it, but it is hard because there's such a lot going on, so many challenges that you're being presented with. If you could change one thing about the business environment in Somerset, or in Shepton Mallet in particular, to unlock more growth or innovation, what would it be?
I think there needs to be more support for high street businesses. And
Yeah,
I'm not just talking about Haskins in just for us. I think genuinely, I think there's a lot of focus on encouraging new businesses, which is great and absolutely important. But there also needs to be support for the established businesses that are already contributing to the local economy. High streets are evolving and there's a huge amount of potential with high streets. We cannot let them die off. One of our challenges is that we've got massive premises here in Shepton, and we want to be able to offer the customer to come in, try the bed, look at the different fabrics, see the different options. But all this space comes with a cost.
yeah.
And we do want to move online, but a lot of businesses are moving online, and we don't want to see our high streets decline. We want to actually see them thrive. And I think there could be more government help, whether it's with the rates or general overheads, or just looking at high streets and coming up with a plan to regenerate them. I think is an opportunity the government should be looking at. That said, we choose to be here. It is on us to be able to afford the premises, which we do. But I think a more joined up approach to how high streets could thrive would be good.
There was some work done by somebody called Mary Portas a few years ago looking at high streets, and she came up with this recommendation for BIDs, business improvement districts. Lots of places have BIDs. We do quite a lot of work with Bristol BID. I know that there's one in Chippenham. There isn't one in Frome. I guess there's not one in Shepton either. I think you have to apply for that, don't you? But that's an organisation that gets funded by a levy from the larger organisations in the BID area.
Yeah. And that's the type, going back to when I said I've joined the Shepton Mallet Town Board and getting local business people from Shepton all together. I think these are the type of things we need to explore as a town, not just Haskins, to see what is out there and what we can do to help the high street in general.
Yeah, I'd encourage you to get chambers involved in that, because if you've got a good chambers working in your town as well, we're both members of Somerset Chamber. I chair Frome Chamber, but I think like Shepton and so many other small towns, Frome Chamber suffered during the pandemic, and it's taking an enormous amount of time to turn that around and create something that's relevant for the local environment, the local businesses. I'd encourage you to get chambers involved, because I think if you've got a healthy chambers in town as well, then that helps everybody.
Definitely. And it's about making those connections. Going back to the awards, it's not just about winning the award, but it's about it opening up doors for us to be able to talk to the chambers or other business people or things that I don't even know exist out there. Having the awards where you actually put a lot of people in the same room and then promoting the Somerset Chambers of Commerce is really vital, because if you don't know if something's out there, how are you meant to tap into it?
Exactly, yeah. Somerset do run a lot of events. Last night I went to the launch of this new Elevate network that they've just created. It was at Somerset County Cricket Club.
Yeah,
There were 150 people in the room last night.
yeah. Which
Extraordinary, really, of some large organisations as well as owners like me of smaller businesses. But it was an extraordinary event, and David Crew and others are there talking about together we can really challenge and overcome some of the challenges that Somerset is facing. It is about the people. It's all about the people getting together and actually working together, isn't it? Because it can't all be on you or me or other individuals.
it's a really valid point. From being a slightly younger businesswoman with a young family and running the business and trying to get involved with the Shepton Mallet Town Board, and it's a balance of where my time, the business is very important, my family is very important. I need to get out and network a little bit more to know what is available and support around. But you can't do everything. And
You
that's
can't know.
probably the hardest part about being a younger female in the business world, is balancing everything.
Yeah, yeah, no, I completely understand. We seem to have raced through this conversation, but I've one last question that I'd like to ask, and that's What message would you like to send to young people leaving school and thinking about the job market, or school or college?
I would say that the world is changing very quickly, like ridiculously quickly, and that brings both opportunities and challenges. And I think we've mentioned it all through this conversation, but I think it's about balance. And I think younger people coming through, they need to know that they need to work hard, they need to be dedicated, and people need the drive to succeed, but not at the detriment of people's mental health or their personal life or everything that goes on behind the scenes. And finding that balance is so important. And if I'm completely honest, it's something I'm still having to work on and trying to get to grips with how my work life balance is. But if younger people or the next generation coming through can understand that it still takes hard work, but they've got to look after their mental health in this changing world, then that's got to be much more sustainable than the world our predecessors have lived through. But I don't know how they do that. That's just, I think it needs to be really mindful that hard work is still needed, but mental health is also really important and they need to look after that.
Yeah, I understand that completely. We ran a conference for Bristol Bid a couple of weeks ago on multi-generational leadership, and there was a lot about health and well-being, mental health, and so forth there. And one of the panelists said he runs a food chain in Bristol. He said he had somebody phone him up one morning saying they need to take a mental health day. And he said, I'd never heard that before. And it's a real challenge because we need to really understand why this is happening. And if we don't understand why this is happening, we, the older generations or the business owners, can't do anything about it. But the messages are coming through loud and clear, aren't they, from the
Yeah,
younger generations? We need to be mindful of that.
we do. And I'm working in an organisation that is multi-generational, not just family. We've got a couple of employees that have been with us 43 years or something.
Wow.
And managing them alongside someone that is early 20s is two different tactics.
Yeah.
It's two different management processes. And we need to understand that managing multi-generational businesses is not one whole fits all. Because a classic example, our old FD, he wanted an office 9 to 5. That was his working hours. He had his lunch break at 1 o'clock. There was no shifting from that. Whereas one of the girls in the office, she's got on school run, or she'd much rather be in an open plan office where they're bouncing ideas around. That's two very different ways of working. And how do you combine that in one organization? But I think if you can understand that and manage people to their needs, then you are onto a winner, or at least I hope so anyway. But they are forcing the mental health message to us, rightly or wrongly. There's lots of opinions out there, but it is important. Our children or the younger generation, they are faced with things that not even I was faced with. Social media, it's a whole new world, and we need to be very careful with their mental health and how we support them, just as much as we need to be careful with the older generation going through menopause or that dealing with retirement. It's a challenge.
But if we're not mindful of that, then we have unhappy workforces, and we have unhappy workforces. We don't have businesses that can win growth and resilience awards, do we?
No, and the business is so important to me, but the people are what make it. I can't do it all by myself. It is about Sue in the bed department that has been here 43 years, and she knows everything you could possibly imagine about a bed. And it is about the people and how I personally support them and hope, pray that they all come into work happy, because people's lives are complicated. And at the end of the day, we want a happy working environment. We want to sell some furniture. We want to absolutely exceed customers' expectations. And we want to move on to the next generation. God, I'm not asking a lot, am I?
No, but it's well said though. I think it's good that you say that. It's a strong message to send out. I guess we could probably talk for hours, Jade, but we have to end at that point. Remains for me to thank you for joining me. It's just
No,
been a real
thank you for
pleasure.
inviting me on.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you. So if you'd like to find out more about Haskins, why not visit their shop on the High Street in Shepton Mallet, or find them online at www.haskinsfurniture.co.uk. If you'd like to find out more about HGKC and how we work with our clients on leadership, growth through innovation and preparation for exit, please visit our website, www.hgkc.co.uk. And if you're not a member of Somerset Chamber of Commerce or Shepton Mallet Chamber of Commerce, I should add, please visit the websites and find out how the chambers are supporting businesses across the county. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.